So I'm about to start a new journey of something that I've never done before. And to be frank, I am nervous. I'm excited, but I'm nervous. But it got me thinking. I've taken multiple steps of faith in my life, from starting a blog to writing a book to starting a business to quitting my job without a plan. Yes, I did that. And I low-key recommend it, but don't quote me. But that's a story for another day. Let me know in the comments if you guys want to hear that. But yeah, even this YouTube channel is a huge step of faith for me. And now I'm about to start a podcast with a friend of mine. And while all of that is very, very exciting, I started feeling the nerves kicking in. And I started thinking about my journey and the multiple steps of faith that I have taken, and realized that I have learned so many lessons along the way. And this is what I want to share with you today. I want to share with you 6 things that you should know before you take any step of faith. And these lessons that I've learned along the way have helped me, and that's what I'm using to help me even now as I'm about to take another leap of faith. So stay tuned and we'll get right into it. But before we do that, if you're new here, hi, welcome. My name is Teresa. On this channel, I'm documenting life in my 30s as I navigate faith, life, and become everything God has created me to be. So if that sounds like your thing, just click on that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified anytime we drop a new video. And if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. I'm so happy to have you here. And right now, we'll get right into it. So, the first thing you should know about stepping out in faith is there are no guaranteed outcomes, there are no guaranteed results. And by that, I mean, like, you're taking this huge step of faith and you have an expectation or a vision of what you think it would look like, or what you think it should look like, what the results should look like. But sometimes you take that step of faith and your expectation doesn't match your reality, or your reality doesn't match your expectation. And the way that you thought the results are going to come is not the way that the results are showing, if there are even any results. But I want to encourage you that that's just part of the journey. That's the whole point of stepping out in faith. It means that we take that action and we trust God to bring the results. It has nothing to do with us. You can't control it. You can't control the outcome. You can't control the result. But what you can control is your obedience. What you can do is take that step of faith just as God has led you, or how you feel led in your spirit. There's a scripture that I really like that talks about this, and it says, Paul planted, somebody else water, but it's only God who brings the increase. So, yes, you may plant the seeds, you may take the right steps, you can do everything correctly, but the results that you have in mind might not be the results that you see in your reality. And that's just part of life. That's just the journey of faith. It is only God who brings the increase. So don't go into it expecting that everything you see in your mind is exactly what it will look like in reality. And maybe it will look like that at some point, because sometimes these steps of faith, these are faith journeys, right? And the results will come and the outcome will be great, or it will be exactly what God has shown you, but you don't know what the journey is looking like. So don't be discouraged. Don't just start today and expect that whatever you saw in your mind is exactly how it's going to be. Sometimes it works that way, sometimes it doesn't. But that's what I'm saying. The outcome is not guaranteed. You can't control the outcome. What you can control is your obedience to God and your faith in Him. So, the second thing I want you to know before you take a step of faith is that God will not show you the whole picture on purpose. And this is what I mean. Sometimes we hesitate or we wait before we take a step of faith because we want to have the full blueprint. We want the play by play, how it's going to happen every moment, every time of this thing that you're going to do. And God rarely does that. And I think He does that on purpose, right? Because look at the Israelites, for example. When they were leaving Egypt to go to the promised land, God told Moses in Exodus 13 that He will not take them through the land of the Philistines, which was the shorter route, because if they see war as they go through that land, they might be discouraged and decide that they want to go back. So, yeah, God has a plan. He knows that for sure, if I take this person, if I show this person exactly how this step of faith is going to play out, they might not even take that step of faith. And think about it, think about your life, the things that you have been through, or the steps of faith that you have taken and have come out victorious on the other end. If you knew the in between, would you really have taken that step in the beginning? Forget now that you're at the promised land, quote unquote. Like you have your breakthrough and you have your testimony. But if you knew everything that you're going to go through before you get there, would you have done it? Would you actually have taken that first step of faith? And I think about my own life, and for example, just with school, I was an engineering student, and if I knew the kind of shege I will see inside this engineering, I for sure absolutely would not have been an engineering student. I would have just quit from the very beginning and all of that. So God does that intentionally. He doesn't give you the full picture, He doesn't give you the full blueprint because He wants you to lean on Him. He gives you enough light for the next step. So take the first step, then He will show you what to do next. Then you take the next step, He will show you what to do next, and you take the next step. And that's our life as believers. That's what it means to live by faith. You don't necessarily have to know everything from the beginning to the end. You just have to know God and believe in Him and trust in Him and lean on Him. And whatever happens, everything will definitely work out for your good. The third thing I want you to know before you take a step of faith is that you will need to increase your capacity. Because think about it. Are you truly, truly prepared for the things that you're asking God for? If God answers all your prayers right now in their fullness at this moment, will you be able to handle it? And if you don't understand what I mean, I'll explain. For example, I took a step of faith to start my business, Unique Publishing, where I help authors, I help business owners, entrepreneurs, coaches, experts to package their expertise into a book that builds their business, makes an impact, and all of that good stuff. So when I started, I kept asking God, like, bring me more clients or bring me clients. I kept praying and praying for clients and more clients. And one day the Holy Spirit convicted me and asked me, if He brings me the clients that I'm asking for, let's say He gives me 50 more clients or 100 more clients, will I be able to handle it? And the truth is, I wouldn't have, because I had no systems, no structure. I was drowning with the clients that I already had, plus my full time job, plus my other responsibilities as a wife, as a daughter, as everything. Like my cup was full, and not even in the like I was overwhelmed. I already had too many things on my plate, and I was asking God for more clients. And He asked me, will you really be able to handle these clients? And it got me thinking, like, sometimes we absolutely are not prepared for the things that we're praying for. So that means that when you take a step of faith, you have to be willing to increase your capacity. And that practically that looks like learning, building systems and structure, like in my case with my business, for example, learning from people who have gone ahead of us, volunteering, learning to budget, because you're asking God to pay off your debt. If He does pay off that debt, have you really dealt with the habits that got you into debt in the first place? Probably not. So you have to go through that process so that you can grow and become better and be able to handle the testimony as it comes or when it comes, right? You have to be willing to increase your capacity so that you can handle all the things that God is bringing your way. Don't waste this in between time, when you just step out and you haven't really arrived where you want to be, but you're not where you were. You're just kind of in between. Don't waste that time. Use it to learn, use it to grow, use it to improve yourself, invest in yourself. God doesn't waste resources. Even in the parable of the talents, the person who had five and worked on it and brought five more, he got more. The person who had two and increased their capacity and brought more fruit from what he had, he got more. But the person who had one and who didn't even do anything with what he had, even what he had was taken away from him. So don't waste time, even in this between time, even right before you step out in faith. Use this time to learn, to grow, to invest in yourself, to increase your capacity. Become the person that you want to be. Prepare yourself to receive the blessing that you're asking God for. The fourth thing I want you to know before you take a step of faith is that even the promised land has giants. Okay? Even the promised land has giants. And this is what I mean. The Israelites, when they were leaving Egypt to go to the promised land, what they were told is a land flowing with milk and honey, beautiful, everything, and they were excited about that. But guess what happened? They get there and there's giants. And some of them were like, yeah, nope, let's just go back. I don't want to die. Even though others were like, you know what, we can do this. We can overcome the giants and we can stay and actually live in this promised land that God has given us. And that's exactly the mindset that we're supposed to have. We have to know that just because God said, just because God promised, doesn't mean that it will come easily. It doesn't mean that it will fall from heaven on a platter of gold and just boom, land on your lap. I wish, but most times that's not realistic. That's not how it happens, right? So whatever your journey is, even before you take that step of faith, you have to know right now that they may be giants along the way, that you might face challenges, that it may be hard, or some places may be difficult. There's some tough things that you might have to deal with. You have to know that even right now before you take that step of faith, so that when you do meet the challenges, you're not discouraged, you're not disappointed, and you don't just dump the vision that God gave you and just quit on it. God may not remove the challenges or the giants or the difficulties, but He will empower you to overcome. He will help you to overcome. So don't quit. When you meet the challenges, don't quit. Don't be afraid of any opposition that you will face, because those challenges, that opposition is building resilience in you. It's helping you to become stronger. It's part of the things that are helping you to increase your capacity. Okay, so don't quit when it gets hard, because even though the promised land has giants, you are equipped to overcome. The fifth thing that I want you to know before you take a step of faith is obedience over optics. Okay, and this is what I mean. Sometimes we're too paralyzed by what people will think, what people will say, how it will look like to others, and then we get stuck. We don't take that step of faith because we're so concerned about what people will think, what people will say, and all of that stuff. And that is a lie from the pit of hell. That is a lie. Don't let what people will say, what people will think, stop you from obeying God. Stop you from taking that step of faith. Stop you from following through on what you said you're going to do. What matters most is that you obey God and you take that step of faith. Because honestly, success looks different from what you might think, right? And I don't want to get into this because I've done a whole video about what success looks like. But us as humans, maybe in our limited capacities or in our limited mindsets, we think success is when someone has all this. Maybe they have a bunch of followers, or they are making a bunch of sales, or they have all this money, or they have that and they have that. And I'm not saying that they're not successful, but sometimes in God's eyes, that's not necessarily what success looks like. Like, think about Joseph. Joseph, when he was taken to be slave in Potiphar's house, he was a slave. When you look at it on the outside, that's not successful. But what does the Bible say? That Joseph was successful in everything that he did because he was obedient to God. And that's really what success really means, is that obedience. When you take that step and you're obedient, that it doesn't matter what other people outside are saying or seeing. Even when Joseph became a prisoner, as he was in prison, as a prisoner, when you're thinking about it, you're like, this person is not successful. But what does the Bible say? That Joseph was successful in everything he did, even though he was a prisoner. So our own vision of what success is might differ from what God is calling successful. Again, I don't want to get into it, but here I am. So I'll link the video. I talked about what success truly means. But yeah, you can watch it there. What I'm trying to say is, it doesn't matter what people think, it doesn't matter how it looks like. The optics of it doesn't matter. You might look silly, you might look cringe, you might look like you're embarrassing yourself, but that should not matter as long as you're obeying God, as long as you're doing what God has sent you to do. It's like Saul. Saul lost the kingdom. That's King Saul. He lost the kingdom because he was too worried about what people would think. So he ended up disobeying God and doing something that he was not supposed to do because he was too concerned. Like, what would the people say? The people are looking like this. The people are looking at me. So I can't just do what God said. And that will bring you down before anybody's judgment will ever bring you down. Be obedient to what God has told you to do. Don't worry about how it looks like on the outside, as long as you're obedient to what God said you should do. The final thing I want to share with you before you take a step of faith is that you have heaven's backing. Okay? You are not alone. You are not alone. God is with you. He said that even if you go through fire, you'll not be consumed. If you go through water, you will not drown. You're not alone. No matter what happens in this journey of faith that you're taking, you're not alone. God is with you. He says so many times in scripture, don't be afraid. I am with you. I'll never leave you. I'll never forsake you. And this is why it's important to be rooted in the word so that when things get tough and challenging, the word can remind you, you can remember because you have the word in you of what God has said. So as long as you take this step of faith, God is with you, heaven is backing you. So don't worry, don't be afraid. I just want to encourage you. Don't be afraid. God is with you, and every single thing will work together for your good. All right, guys, let me know if this has been helpful to you in the comments. And if you're taking a step of faith, you have taken a step of faith, or you're doing something, let us know in the comments what you're doing. If you've written a book, if you're doing a podcast, if you have a YouTube channel, if you're going back to school, if you're getting married, whatever it is that is a step of faith for you, let us know in the comments. I would love to cheer you on. I'd love to support and just encourage you, and we can encourage each other even in the comments. So let us know what you're doing, and if this has been helpful to you, let me know as well. And again, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.